Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, we got on our summer white pretty lady.
We better, honey. I've been waiting for summer for a long time. I'm tired of waiting. I want it to be hot and I want to
I
be
know
by the
that's right.
pool and I want to have a margarita and I want a cute pool boy bringing me something to dry off.
Love it.
How are you, Carla?
I'm good, Jasmine. How are
I am
you?
doing good, honey. Still riding the high of coming from the White House.
Yes,
What a great time.
absolutely. What a
You know what?
blessing.
What a blessing, right? So many beautiful Black women who have just basically carved the path for generations to come. I was just honored to even be amongst everybody, including you.
Oh, right back at you. Right back at you. Same.
Let me tell you something.
Same.
This is what's funny. So, obviously, the whole purpose of me doing this started from just trying to recognize women for Women's History Month. And I had this thought that, we're always honoring all the people from the past. And, we honor all of these people that we really don't know. I wanted to do something a little different and talk to the people that I've met along my journey, people that I know very well, don't know so well, and people that I want to get to know better. And you were on that list because from the moment I met you a gazillion years ago, you've always been nothing but kind to me. You've always been the exact same person every time I've seen you. And after hanging out with you in DC, I thought, I cannot believe that I've known her or been adjacent to her for this long. And that was the first time that you and I had ever been in a room together where we was just cutting up
And kicking it. And
and
kicking
kicking
it.
it.
Yes, and having a good time. That's really a shame. That's
Ain't that a
really a
shame?
shame that we haven't, been able to just chop it up and hang out. It's always everybody's was on the go and moving, and I think after COVID, after the pandemic, it slowed everybody down and say, wait a minute, stop, smell the roses, enjoy your life, fellowship, lift each other up, empower each other. So I think that's the silver lining
Yeah,
from
I
COVID.
agree with
Yeah,
that. I agree with
yeah,
that. And I
yeah.
think sometimes, in certainly in every industry, but I think a lot more in ours, I think we get bombarded all the time with just work, dealing
Yes.
with very large personalities, and just having a lot on our plate. Sometimes it's not always easy to take that time to smell the roses. But one of the
Right.
things that I've been trying to do, and for the past, well, certainly since I launched this Woman to Woman series, but even before that was, I wanted to make sure that I was not, that my energy wasn't wrong and that people
Mm.
understood that I am not unapproachable and I am not the kind of person that won't call you back if you slide in my DMs. Well, depending on who you are. But
Right.
if I know you or if I think I know you or if I feel like there is some help that I can be of service to you, I
Right.
will. And so I
Yeah.
try to make sure that I don't know, kind of went above and beyond because I've always been that person, but other people didn't always know that about me. And so I
Right.
thought, well, what better way to do that than to pick out women? Because I only picked a select few in the beginning, and you were one of the ones in the very beginning. I just could not get I didn't know, should I DM her? Should I, and then the whole White House thing. And I was like, I'm just going to talk to her personally. I'm going to tell her I want to do this. And so
Yeah.
I think part of the beauty of being in these positions is being able to have these kind of conversations that other people wish they could but couldn't.
Yeah.
And again, for me to be able to say, you know, I remember in the beginning and watching you grow and watching what you've done for the Steve Harvey morning show. And I think a lot of times because as women, that's just calling it like
Mhm.
it is.
Mhm.
We are sometimes in the background and not the forefront, or we
Yeah.
are, the word I hate more than anything that will make me stop talking to you. And if you don't believe me, ask DL. Don't ever call me a sidekick. That's not what I do.
Sidekick. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. We
not what I
can't
am.
stand that.
I can't
No.
stand that
No.
word. I don't like
No.
it. Don't use it around me. for anybody else either. Like, don't call
Right.
other women that. I don't like it. I don't like it. But
Right.
I know sometimes, we're in the shadow. But I wanted the chance to just sit, to chop it up with you a little bit. There is no real agenda other than it's like me and you at brunch, just laughing and kikiing. I don't have a mimosa at the moment, but trust and believe I will later.
Okay, I'm not mad, right?
But I know what my life is like, next to a king of comedy. But you
Mhm.
also are next to a king of comedy. What is that life like for you?
Well, you know what? We started the show back in 2005, the Steve Harvey Morning Show. Of course, he was local doing it in Los Angeles, and it was a local radio show on a local radio station. But when the call came for me to work with Steve to launch his national syndicated show, that was right after Katrina.
Hmm.
And my husband and I were living in New Orleans. Everybody knows my husband's from the NO, baby. And we were living in New Orleans, and I was the ops manager, operations manager of 4 urban stations, iHeart stations in New Orleans. So when the call came for us to start this thing, I was like, okay. But it was after Katrina, and I accepted the job before Katrina. Then Katrina hit, and my husband lost his job. We were
Mm.
living in New Orleans, and I remember Steve calling right after that, like, y'all okay? What's going on? And we're like, yeah, we're okay. Okay, good, because we're moving to New York. And I'm like, wait,
Woo.
wait. Prior to that, for women in radio and career women that are bosses, if you will, you know, I was one of those women who, hey, have bags, will travel, got a job, put the call letters, what we call in radio, the call letters, which means, we were able to, or we would accept a job to move from city to city to city. Well,
Yes.
when you're married, it's different. And for me, I had to say, wait a minute, because before I would accept a job to go here and there. But my husband was a mortgage loan officer. So, what ended up happening was Katrina hit and then the housing market crashed. And
Mm.
it was one of those things that we looked at each other. We had been married a year. We got married in 2004. So this year we'll be celebrating 19 years. So we got married in 2004. And I said, hey, Steve is asking if we can move to New York. He was like, let me see if I can get licensed up there. We didn't have a kid then. We was like, let's go. So
Right.
we went from New Orleans, from disaster crisis. My husband was heartbroken at what happened to his city. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
we just went, and then the next thing you know was me, him, and the dog walking in Times Square, walking, walking down 42nd Street. Talking about, was that Bobby Brown?
Yes.
So I really got involved with work, and what the marching orders was to launch this show, make it a national show, and let it grow and let it be successful. And like you said, sometimes women that are behind the scenes and people don't understand a lot of what I do. And as a program director, every single day brainstorming, seeing what we could do, and the job was to grow the show. And that was the job when we started in 2005. We have four cities. We call it markets in radio. We had 4 cities, and we were like, we can't survive on just 4 cities. I would be on the phone calling program directors. And if you're not familiar with what that is, if you're watching, those are people that are in charge of content and DJs and on air things on the radio, convincing them to give us a chance
Yeah.
to be their morning show. And I would call, and they were like, we got 60 seconds, go.
That's
And
it.
I'm pitching this radio show and the growth. And at that time, it was myself, Steve, nephew Tommy, and on the other side of my office in New York in BLS, Steve office was right here. My office was in the middle, and Wendy Williams was on the other side of me.
Hmm.
So I would see Wendy Williams at BLS in the bathroom. Hey, Wendy, hey, girl. Don't be talking about us on there today. Wendy, how you doing? All of
Right.
that. it was fun, fun radio, living in the Big Apple, living in the number one radio market in the world.
Yes.
And that's what we had to do. And we had fun doing it. And we grew that show. And like I said, that was 2005. It's 2023. So how
That's
many years
work.
ago?
That's
Yeah.
work. That's hard work.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I feel like, you talked about Wendy, and I worked at BLS. My studio faced Wendy's, and
Yeah.
I get them daily morning pep talks from Steve about why I'm still single.
Girl,
I'm like,
he's
man,
a
if you don't leave me
relationship
alone.
expert. Yes, a
But
relationship
I
expert.
the thing that I guess that I don't know how you feel about it, but it's hard
Hmm.
when you see um, a fellow radio sister going through some stuff. Now, love or hate Wendy, she really was a trailblazer and still is
Oh,
in many ways in terms of what she was able to do, the way she was able to negotiate her contracts, the advice. She and I would have bathroom girl chat, and she would tell me the things to
see,
stand
bathroom
for, the
did same
things
thing.
that's it. And,
Same.
when I look now and I see the stuff that she's going through, for me, it's the radio has changed. It still has a long way to go in terms of how they value women and their positions. I think people underestimate the difficulties of being a co-host, right? When
Yeah.
you are just as opinionated, you can talk just as much. It's hard.
Yeah.
I think it's harder sometimes to be a co-host than it is a
And it
host,
is.
because
And I tell
you
people that all the
it's
time,
hard.
Jasmine,
It's
and they don't
not
understand that.
easy.
They think that co-host women, all you girls do, you just sit next to them and you
And
laugh.
giggle.
That's
And
what
giggle. Yeah, that's it.
that's exactly what they think it is, but they don't know prior to. And just like you said, we working with two big personalities. We are working with you work with DL, I work with Steve. And the thing is, they are comedians first. And so the science and the medium of radio, Steve has always loved and always respected. So that's half the battle when you get someone that
Uh-huh.
respects what it is.
But
Because
you
a
got to
lot of
teach
times
them the
people,
implementation.
yes, because a lot of times people come in and they see what we do, especially interviews, and we don't do like a million interviews. We're just not that type of show. But people will come in and they see what we do and they think it's easy. And they think, oh, I can do that. Oh, you can. Every single day, day in and day out, you think you can do this. It is not that simple. When people walk in the studio, there is a show that I have written, that I have
Mhm.
laid out. And this is what we're going to do. Now, the comedy is going to come,
Right.
but the topics and the things, it's exhausting
It is
watching the
exhausting.
news. It's exhausting. And everything is not a joke.
Mhm.
Everything is not a joke. And so when you work with comedians, we have to raise our hand and throw hot time out. We have to discuss the serious topic that is affecting our culture,
Yeah.
affecting the people, affecting the country, affecting the world, gun safety, Black Lives Matters. There's some heavy COVID. There was some heavy things that we've seen in the last 3 years. And don't get me wrong, Black Lives Matter, social justice, police reform, all of these topics were obviously before COVID, but everything came so heavy so fast that we kind of had to say, it is our job in Black radio. We are responsible for a lot of things. And I think as Black people, we always say, boy, we gotta look out for each other on everything. And that's just us. That's just us as a race. So we have to tell people when to go to the doctor. We have to tell people
Mhm.
when to vote. We have to tell people this is what's going on. This is why you need to vote. You don't need to sit this election out because the president has the power to appoint Supreme Court justices. So a lot of y'all sitting back watching what happened on the Supreme Court. Did you sit out the last voting cycle with the
Mhm.
president? These are the kinds of things that we have to do. And it gets heavy. It gets
It
heavy
does. It
for us,
absolutely does. Yeah, well, of
the
course.
people
Well,
that
not only
are,
that, we're responsible, I think, people in your position, for sure, mine as well,
yeah,
trying to be the guardrails of of making sure that we get that point across and the message is not
Mhm.
lost in the comedy. Because you know as well as I do, when you're working with someone who is a comedian, they find joke in the darkest places. And
Yes,
sometimes you
they
have to
do.
say, okay, we want to keep our markets. Okay, this
Yeah, we
is
want to keep our
funny
jobs. We
on
want
the
to stay
inside when
employed.
yeah, for sure. But with things being so heavy and understanding the weight of your job, what does Carla do when she goes home? Now, first of all, that's a loaded question, right? Because I know that it never stops. You're constantly trying to stay on top of what's the latest up, breaking news, or what did they do down in Florida with crazy DeSantis and what's happening over here. Like, it's a constant. So that never turns off. But when you do get the opportunity to turn it off, what does Carla do?
Yeah.
What do you do for
Well,
fun?
for fun,
She was like,
be a
shoot, I
mother.
ain't seen fun in a long time.
Long time. I haven't seen fun in a long time. I do have, you have your tight knit group of girlfriends that I hang with. I am a mother of a teenager, a 15-year-old, and I have a
Child.
15-year-old daughter.
Woo,
Yes,
honey. Go ahead with it.
yes, and she keeps me very, very busy, and it's just like I always refer back to that joke that Chris Rock did. I'm just trying, when he said, I'm just trying to keep my daughters off the pole. I mean, that's, honey, listen, I have to keep my child.
And
She
it's
is
not
busy,
easy. Being a mother
is
in
24/7.
2023, like how
It's,
in the world, and then a 15-year-old girl with social media, with TikTok, with
yes,
everybody trying
yes,
to assign her a value, her identity.
yes,
Oh my
yes.
God. And then
It is
trying
very
to keep
hard.
up with all the new, and I'm sure you got to have anxiety from reading everything. It's a new challenge out. Oh, I got to go talk to my daughter, make sure she ain't trying it. Or they're snatching young girls up. Oh Lord, I got to go. Like that's got to be nerve wracking.
It is. It's so much pressure and anxiety, and you just, as a mother, motherhood is one of the best, most joyful jobs that I can speak on. And for my daughter, she is an athlete, and she is a wonderful student. So with these things, trying to position her to get ready for the next chapter in her life, she wants to be a surgeon. And so
Ah,
wanting to be a surgeon, making sure that she stays on course, and she could change her mind. Like I said, she's 15, because honey, I promise you I wasn't gonna be no surgeon and have that mindset. But these kids these days, they're very confident
yeah.
and very sure. Even just her group of friends, they know what they want to do, they go after it. They're very informed, and they try to support each other. So as a mother, just trying to be there for her. um you try to say, so what's going on, and she like,
I'm gonna mind your
mom.
business.
Yeah,
Mind your business.
stay in your lane. But no, really, what's going
Yeah,
on?
yeah, yeah.
Walk in her room. You just
And
gotta
close the
bust up in
door.
her
Like
room.
I ain't with it. So
You're
when
right,
you talked about you have recently gotten married before the move to New York. And I know just like you said, when you're coming up, for us, you went where the job was. You went to
hmm
Tupelo, Mississippi, you went to places you people had never heard of because you had to go where the job was. How did you
right.
prepare for the next chapter of your life? And then even with the massive success of the Steve Harvey Morning Show, how did you prepare for even that next chapter? Because I'm sure it brought more opportunities. It brought, a lot of hanger honors. How did you make the change for yourself?
Well, you know what? It was funny because, like you said, I was single for so long, and then when it
Child.
was like I got married, child, got married, and started working with the show, and it was different. I think that with my husband, he had been through what he had been through in relationships, and I had been through what I had been through. So we had came together. We were calm. We were as one, and it was like, you want to be with me, be with me. If you don't, there go the dough. I cannot.
Period.
I am drained, done. Chalk it up to the game. Whatever you want to do. And he felt the same way. And when we got together and we were as one, we were like supporting each other. And that was my first time in my life that I had to put another person's wants, needs, dreams, desires on the same level as mine, and especially
Mm.
with this business, because out of sight, out of mind. So you don't want to not make sure, we call it branding now, but back then we were positioning ourselves all the time to get the phone call for the next job or whatever. But I had to step back and consider the city. I'm
Yeah.
not moving to Tupelo, Mississippi, because he don't want to move to Tupelo, Mississippi, and he
Nobody
can't get a
does.
job. Right. And
You
he
want to
can't get
visit,
a
but nobody want
job.
to go. Yeah.
Right, right. So I had to consider his career. I had to consider all of these things. So we worked on, I won't say it was easy. Every marriage is a lot of work. I don't care what you do for a living. It is a full-time job and it's a commitment. But as the show grew, we high-fived each other at work, high-fived each other at home. The housing market turned around. It was like a blessing in disguise, because my
Yeah.
husband, he was a mortgage loan officer. And then when things got bad with the housing market crash, the laws were rewritten, things were changed, and now my husband became licensed for the whole country instead of a certain region. So things got better for him too, and what he did for a living. So it was just, prayer. I always,
Yes.
we pray, prayer, and just working together as one. Keep other people out your marriage, other people out,
And off social
because when you,
media.
yeah, social media. And then when you inform people and talk to people about your marriage and discuss what's going on, then they think they have an opinion. And
Hmm.
then they can give you their opinion on what you're doing with your marriage. So that was something that, because I was engaged before. I was engaged before I got married. So that was something that I learned, and that person that I was engaged to was in the industry as well. So I was happy that my husband is in a totally different industry. Now, he used to work in sales and radio, because that's where I met him. Everybody always joke about sales and programming, but that's where I met him.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I've always said that for me, because of course I'm single, I've never been married, never been engaged, and no, ain't nothing wrong with me. It's just the cards that I've been dealt so far. But I've always said that I don't know that I would ever date. Now, obviously, your situation a little different because in sales and radio, yeah, but still a little separate, right? I don't know that I would ever date somebody in the same industry as me. I feel like it
No,
would be, oh,
it's tough. And it was so funny because when we got engaged, my husband, he walked away from radio. He wanted to do mortgage sales. He's a finance guy. So radio sales was not his love. I love radio. He knows that. He's like, "Ooh, that's your thing.
yeah.
You love your radio. That ain't my thing." So that worked out. He don't ever, when I'm it's so funny, even when we go somewhere and we get in the car, and he was like, he's like, when we turn on the radio, my husband, Tosh, just like, please don't produce, please don't program, just
Oh my
listen.
God. It's
Just
impossible not
listen
to.
to the radio. I'm like, no.
Can't.
Why is
You
that
can't.
lighter there? Where's that stop sign? What is that sound effect about? What's the imaging going on? He's just like,
It's
can we?
impossible. And it's one of those things where if you know, you know. Like it's
Yeah,
just it's in you. Like I know it is so hard for me to listen to the radio. I am not
it's
saying that I am
very.
the absolute best and the
Oh,
foremost
right,
expert. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is, Mom, that break too long. Like where you going? Where's the
right.
point? What is
Where?
happening here? Who there's dead air. What is happening? And
Right.
nobody else. And I'm like, this is not bothering anybody but me. What is going on? But I realize that, I live in a different universe when it comes to radio. So I'm going to listen to it from a different perspective.
Right.
It just happens.
Absolutely.
What would
And
you say
same
is
with him.
the greatest lesson personally that you've learned to date? Like from Carla, who was 15, like your daughter, to Carla, that the seasoned woman that you are now. What's the greatest personal lesson that you've learned?
Oh man, I would say, Jasmine, family over everything.
Mm,
Value family over everything, because when you're in school, or I went to HBCU and graduated and got my degree and hustled and wanted to be this girl in radio, this young woman coming up in the game and learning about a promotions department and interning and hanging up banners and going on remotes and trying to didn't even know about the different departments in radio. But through all that, I remember when I graduated from college, when I got a job offer in radio, I was making, shoot, you could tell me nothing, girl. $14,000 $14,000 a year.
Yeah.
What? I thought I had arrived. And I remember I told my mom, I was raised by a single woman, raised by my mother. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, yeah, I made it. And she said, let me get this straight. You got a college degree and you got a job making $13,000. I didn't know that wasn't any money. I was like, that's not any money. And my mom was like, no. But let me say this. If this is something you really love and you really love to do, then stick with it. Be passionate about it, and you'll never feel like you're working, and
That's
you'll
so
enjoy
true.
it. And so with that information from my mother, that's what I did. And then my heart was broken because my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I
Mm.
lost my mom in
Oh my gosh.
2004. Yeah, I lost my mom in 2004. So when I say family, we have seen, Jasmine, men and women in this industry come and go. And they have given these radio stations their all, their
Oh,
loyalty, their time, their passion, their heart. And we have seen them all come and go. Some of them get sick, some of them passed away. We've seen it all. And I step back and say, okay, family is everything. Because sometimes in this kind of job, you become labeled with what you do is who you are.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
we get that label a lot in this industry. And I work very hard to separate that. That's what I do. That's not who I am. And
Yeah.
who
It's
I
so funny
am.
you should say that about the labeling and
Mhm.
really more to the point about you give so much. One of the things that I try to make sure that people understand whenever I have conversations with them and they are outside of what we do, I say,
Right.
listen, it's not all glitz and glamour.
It's
To get here, I had to sacrifice a lot. I had to
Mhm.
sacrifice having time to nurture and really work on any kind of relationship, whether it was a relationship for marriage, a relationship for friendship, and certainly a relationship with my family. Because being in this game as a woman, you already know you have to work not twice as hard, you have to work 5, 10 times as hard just to be seen and to be taken seriously. And I'll
Mhm.
never forget, I read this story a couple of years ago, and and after this, I had a serious conversation with DL about, when we first started working together, he was like, you have to give me permission to this, that, and the other. And I said, as long as you always give me permission to be me and don't ever
Yes.
try to, kind of box me in. And I had to
Mhm.
revisit that conversation, not because he went back on his promise. He still kept that promise. But I saw this story about a woman, I feel like it was in Detroit, who
Mhm.
used to be like a huge radio personality, but she had lost her gig because she had, gotten older, and we already know, you get
That's
older, the format
aging.
changes. It's so many
Mhm.
things that could result in you not having a gig. And now she had lost all of her health benefits. She was, not well health wise, and she was trying to sell peanuts at a baseball game. That was her gig. And it was like this story that had made it to the news that she had used to be like the voice of the city or something. And I thought, it's so sad that we do give so much of ourselves that everyone who listens to us believe that we belong to them, when
Mhm.
sometimes we go home and we don't have anybody. And when that station decides, you no longer fit the format, or we've decided to go in a different direction, or we just we want something fresh and new, or the audience has decided they don't like you anymore. All of a sudden, everything that you've given to them is just zeroed out. They put your little stuff in a
Yeah.
box, put it outside, and you're done. I, how did you manage to keep your sanity during the, because every person that I know who's worth their weight in gold in this business has been fired more than once. You've been
Mhm.
fired, you done lost a job. How did you manage to keep your sanity throughout the tumultuous, I guess, years of radio?
I think that like I always talk about prayer, but also what I did, I keep going back to family, keeping that family unit there. I have my board of directors. The people that are close in
Ah,
my life, and my mother was the head of the board. She was the CEO prior to me getting married. So always having these deep conversations, always planning for the future, and checking your ego, because ego is a big part of what we do, ego personalities. And I think that there was times that you would say to myself, hey, whatever, I'll go teach, I have a college degree, I can do another industry, I don't have to stay in radio. You have to look at yourself, what other people do, what do they do to survive, and not get caught up in the glitz and glam and the celebrity part of it, and keep going. Also working ahead, planning what's next, what's your next move. So when they say we're going in a different direction, you grab your keys and phone and bag, like, cool, I'm ready, I
yes, I'm
stay ready.
ready. I'm
I'm
ready.
ready. I'm stay ready. I'm planning. I'm already, looking at another market. I'm already ready for what's about to go down. So you ain't telling me nothing new. So
Right.
that type of, attitude, and working, and planning, and I just think you have to constantly be ready so you don't have to get ready. We hear that a lot, but you got to put action with that. You can't just say it.
Yeah.
You got to
I
really do it.
totally believe that. If you thought there was one thing that was missing from your life, what would it be? Like
Girl.
if you could name one thing, like you're married, I'm sure you're happy, you have a daughter, but is there anything at this stage of your life that you feel is missing?
Yeah, girl, the Powerball lottery ticket. Let me see.
Thank you. Right on the money, right answer. Ching ching.
Right, girl. Let me see. Forgive me. I'm trying to make sure my computer doesn't die on us. I'm
Oh no, it's
sorry,
okay.
Jazz.
I can edit it and fix it. Don't even worry about it.
Okay, let me
I
make
know
sure.
that's
Okay,
happened to me
I
a
got it
million times. The computer
now.
has
Girl, I
died,
was
the
up here
lights have
pulling
gone
the
out.
plug. I thought it was plugged in. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, what's the one
Yeah,
thing
what do you
that's
think?
missing?
What would you say is, if there were a thing that was missing from your life, what would you say it is?
Girl, I don't know. I am very happy right now. I'm blessed to have a job. I'm blessed to be
Amen.
employed. I am
Amen.
blessed
Especially
to
post
have a
COVID, honey. Post COVID.
honey. Yeah, I am blessed. I have my health.
Yes.
I am
Amen to
blessed
that.
to have a beautiful daughter who loves her mother, who is not disrespectful, who knows I will not. No, I'm just
I was
playing.
about to say, first of all, Carla, ain't nobody
Girl.
trying to be disrespectful to you. We already know.
But it's different. Parenting is different these days. This
Ah.
gentle parenting and all that.
I'm not
Okay.
with it. I understand it, but
Uh,
I'm not totally with it. I
no,
understand.
I
I
have.
do. Now I will say this. I will say this. First of all, full disclosure, I used to get a whooping every day when I was a kid. I every day. Now, yes, I will put part of it on my mother, because I think, she didn't know any better. That's how she was raised, and she felt, you got to whoop her, right? But also, I know I put some on myself because I was a terror. I was it's
You were
hard to
bad, Jasmine. You were bad. So we need to interview you. We're gonna turn this around.
I was terrible. I don't know what was wrong with me. I was a nightmare walking, psychopath talking. You know I'm going there? Yeah. I was
Yeah.
terrible. So my mama had every reason to whoop me, but I can understand now that I'm a grown woman, right? That I needed help. But I just didn't know how to say it because I was a kid. You know, I've been in the foster care since I was foster system since I was 5 years old. So
Oh wow.
well, up until I was five. So I think
Uh-huh.
there's a lot going on there. And so,
Yeah.
I think, sometimes you got to pull that belt out. Now, I think now that we know better, we do better and we have
Mhm.
conversations about it. But I'm not the kind of parent that feels like my 4 year old, which I don't have. But if I had one, I don't feel like it's a democracy up in here. No, no, no. I don't want to hear
No.
your side of things and you're four. You're gonna do what I tell you to do. And if not, I'm gonna get them
Yeah.
legs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
kind of child
Yeah.
were
No.
you? What kind? Because I do believe that you, as an adult, are just a larger, more just grown up version of your childlike self. Who was Carla when she was a kid? Like
Oh, you're
not
absolutely
15,
right.
but like a kid.
You spend your whole adulthood getting over your childhood. So
Yeah.
yeah, that that is it. I think I was a cool kid. Like I said, it was just me and my mom. And so I never wanted to disappoint her, let her down,
Mm.
because as a young kid, early childhood years, I grew up in Chicago.
Uh
And
oh.
that's where I fell in love with radio.
Ah.
Listening to radio, iconic radio in Chicago. Come on, the Tom
Yes.
Joyners, Bobby OJ. I'm
Bobby
talking
OJ.
legends,
Yes.
Herb
Legends.
Kent.
Yeah.
So I grew up listening to radio, and that's when I fell in love with radio. So I don't know, I didn't want to disappoint my mother. I wasn't an angel.
Mm.
Now, my teenage years, we moved to Houston. And when we moved to Houston, I think I just kind of lost my mind as a teenager and was smelling myself. So,
Yeah. I
you
think you
know,
do that, trying to find your
I think
own
you do
feminine
that.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got checked a lot with that. But when I got to college, the struggle, the survival, all that kicked in again. And then I started seeing what my mother was telling me. And I think as parents and generations, we want the next generation to live better than how we lived. And
Yes.
I think that's what my mother, that's what she was telling me. But I didn't think it was so bad because we were together. Unbeknownst to me, she was struggling to survive. And that was, our parents struggled with the basics, providing food, water, shelter, those kind of basic survival needs. Where these kids today, and I'm just speaking for myself, my child, her lifestyle is better than what my lifestyle was at her age. So, with that being said, with parenting, you have to teach them now, you have to teach them because she has two successful parents. Okay, so now you have to teach her the value of a dollar and
Yes.
to understand this ain't no ATM machine over here when you come to us and things that you want and opening the refrigerator to get some juice or some food, a specific brand of
Yeah.
juice. That is a privilege
Yes.
where we
You're
would
gonna
even
drink what's in there. How about that?
right, right. So it's that kind of stress level that's different. It's a different time that we're raising our kids in, and that consumes me a lot. And at the same time, being a parent and being a mother and being a wife, I kind of sometimes escape the everyday of radio. It
Mm.
allows me to concentrate on something else with her. It allows me, I enjoy I got to go to a game today and watch my daughter cheer. I enjoy doing that, a spring football game, because when I'm there, I'm talking to other mothers, I'm talking to other parents. And guess what we're talking about? Our kids being athletes, our kids surviving, hearing any rumors about bullying, you
Yeah.
got to keep your ear to the street. And then you turn around and talk to these parents, and they're talking about, hey, I'm going to send you a link. This could be a scholarship program. This could be something for your kid. This could be so. And when they say it takes a village, it's not just about a village babysitting your child. It's about networking, getting information. What can we share to help our kids win. The goal is for your kid to be a productive citizen in this country and not be crazy or not be a
Right.
lunatic. And
And be a
you
decent human
can't have
being.
all that knowledge. You
Yeah,
just
and
can't.
be a decent human being. What would you, if
Right.
you could gift, or not, I'm not even going to say if you could gift, in your dreams, in your wish list, what trait do you hope that your daughter takes from you?
Oh,
From a character perspective.
hard worker, and she is
Mm.
that. She is all the teachers and people say that your daughter is a hard worker, and we know she gets that from you and her dad, because she talks about when she's at school, if something's not right, they said your child will come in, talk about extra credit, what does she need to do, she will go to practice. She is a hard worker, and I think that comes from us telling her all the time, nobody cares, Tasha. Nobody cares, because they don't. People in the world,
They
we
don't.
care about you, but
They
nobody else
don't.
cares.
It is
They
true.
don't care.
That's an aha moment that you have to have. You have to have
Yeah,
that moment that you realize, wow, I really thought that my shit didn't stink, but apparently it does, and nobody really cares anything about me out here. Like
they
you,
don't care.
those are those aha moments. What's the last aha moment that you had?
Let me see. What was the last aha moment? I guess the last aha moment was with us in Washington, D.C., sitting in the White House with my fellow
Sitting
sisters in
in the
radio.
White
And
House.
for us, for me, seeing you, seeing Frankie Darcell, that's my girl,
Oh
seeing
yes,
Helen, all of us that came in the game around the same time as far as the hustle. They, of course, they are legends too. But when we walked into that room and saw our names on the, and it was a piece of paper card like with our names in the White House, honey.
let me tell you. Now, see, this right here, this is a perfect example of how we are just larger versions of our childlike self.
Okay.
I love that moment. And it makes sense that you would remember that. And that would be the thing that stood out to you. The thing that stood out to me was us being lost downstairs in the corridor with the Secret Service. And then us on the
Oh, that was
elevator
funny.
acting a fool. That's the bad girl in me. I'm like, we having
Right.
fun. Yeah, we about to get arrested is what's about to happen.
Right.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
I've learned so much about you too today. Okay. It
So
is what it
I'm gonna ask you this before I let you go. I know you have a busy day, but
is.
you know, I know you said you lost your mom. I'm so sorry
Mhm.
to hear that. I tell people all the time, because I lost my mom too. It
Mhm.
is one of those sororities that you do not look forward to being in. And it is also one that you cannot describe to others what it feels like to be in it. It is flatlining. It really
Yes, it
is.
is.
It will bring you to your knees if you spend a lot of time dwelling on it. But I'd be curious to know what you think your mom would think about you today and what she would say to you.
Everybody always says, my cousins, I got family obviously that follows me on social media, and they always comment, especially on Facebook, the as the older people say, the Facebook.
The
Uh,
Facebook.
they comment all the time. Oh my God, your mother is looking down. She's smiling. I know my mother would be. Let me tell you something. My mom would be working right here. Y'all stop talking to me. My child went to the White House. Hush. You can't say nothing to me. My mother would be bragging left and right. What hurt me the most about some of the moments, but that my mother never got a chance to meet her granddaughter. And
Mm.
my mother passed before I delivered Tasha. Tasha was born in 2008. My mom passed in 2004. So that kind of broke my heart. And I remember I was Jasmine, I was in labor, honey. And I was in the hospital. First of all, I was on bed rest. That's what happened. to all of your followers and your viewers, everybody out here, when you wait till you're 90 to have a baby. But anyway, I was
Yeah, do it like I did when you're 16. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. Don't do what I did, please. Again, another
don't wait
example.
too long like
Look,
I did.
it's another example. The bad one over here, the good one over here. You
And
know, do it
see,
the right way.
But I remember I was on bed rest. I had been in the hospital for maybe about 2 months. I was in the hospital on bed rest. I had a very high risk, difficult pregnancy. Steve would call me all the time. "You had that baby yet? You had that baby yet?" And I would be like, "No, I didn't have my baby." So he was turning 50 when my daughter was born. And he called him and his wife, Marjorie. They called me and they was like, "Okay, Steve, it's gonna be 50." I was in the hospital. I said, "I know, I'm gonna call him tomorrow. I'm gonna call him tomorrow and wish him happy birthday on the air." And they were like, "Okay, okay." So that was January 16th. So prior to that, I went into, unbeknownst to them, hang up the phone later on, I go into labor. And my doctor tells my husband, he's there every day because I've been in the hospital for a long time. And they tell him, "Okay, you can go home. She ain't gonna have the baby tonight." So he's like, "All right, cool." He gets all the way home and they called him, "She's having a baby.
Oh my
You ain't come."
gosh.
He was like, "What?" And then he was like, "It's happening right now. We are not playing. This is not a drill." So he comes back. And so I am in my hospital bed and I start panicking, Jasmine. I just start freaking out, right? And the nurse, I never will forget this nurse. She grabbed my hand. She said, "What's wrong? You can do this." I said, "No, my mother's not here. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing."
Oh man.
Um, I was working in the house, girl. I had a computer in there. I'm listening to stuff, editing. I could do that all day. But you want me to have a baby? What?
Yeah.
And be a mother? What? You want me to do that like right now? I
Can it wait
started
till after this break?
right. We'll be back right after this.
Yeah.
She got in it, so I tripped. I tripped. I started panicking. My blood pressure was going up, and they was like, "Okay, your baby is gonna be in danger. You've got to calm down." I wouldn't calm down. Jasmine, this nurse got in the hospital bed with me
Oh,
and got on top of me like this, right? Looking down at me and said, "Listen to me. We are going to pray together. And your mother is here. She is here. Focus on the good memories of your mother
oh
and
wow.
deliver this beautiful baby," because we knew it was a girl, we knew all this, "and be the best mother that you can be. You got this. She gave you the playbook. You good. You're good." I was like, "No, I'm not. Get off me. I
Get
can't
off
do
my
it." I'm looking at her like, "No, I
Don't get
can't.
off
Get off me." And she was like, "You can do it. You can do it."
me.
Girl, they wheeled me down into the room and it was time for me to get, my husband's not back yet. And so my doctor is like, "We're not," because I had to have a C-section. So they said, "We're not doing anything until her husband comes in here. I promised him that, so we're not doing anything." So everybody looking like, "Well, he need to come on."
Right, because this baby ready to come.
Yeah. And so the doctor, they sit me up and they say, "Okay, it's a different doctor." And it's like, "All right, it's time for your epidural." And they said, listen to us carefully. Don't you, and I mean, don't you move. Don't you
Oh.
scratch. Don't you sneeze. Don't you do nothing. I was
Oh.
like, God, I was like, "I can't do this." They quit tripping. Quit tripping. The nurse looked at me. "What did I tell you? Pull yourself together." Girl, got the epidural. My husband, they got him all of his scrubs. He busted in there, and the doctor, she was just standing there. And she looked at him. She looked at me. She said, "You ready to become parents?" And my doctor's an African American doctor. And she was like, "Y'all ready to do this?" And she delivered my baby. It was just such a crazy moment
Wow.
that happened. And when they delivered her, they was like, "Here's your baby."
Yeah, you was
And I
like, oh my
said,
God, I'm a mama.
right. And I was like, "She's not crying. Why isn't she crying?" And the doctor said, "Oh, she's not crying." And the doctor popped on her butt. She said, "When?" I said, "She's here," and she was crying. And that moment for me, I will obviously never forget. But I always feel like when that nurse told me to get myself together, that my mother was
Was
always in
there.
my ear saying, I'm I'm watching over you. You
Yeah.
were good. Because my mother wanted to be a grandmother. Anybody that knows my mom before she passed away, she wanted to be a grandmother more than anything.
Oh.
And for a long time, I was like, look, I ain't that daughter. Like,
Yeah, get
I'm not
somebody else to do it. It ain't gonna be
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. Pick
Not
somebody else.
yet.
Pick somebody else. Right. So for it to have happened and she wasn't here and she never met, so I always make it a point to tell my daughter that she comes from a generational a line of amazing women, and
Yeah.
that I have to let her know about her grandmother all the time and my grandmother all the time. And she sees the girlfriends and the friends and all that, the aunties, if you will. But it's important for us to surround our girls to know that they're loved and they
Yes.
what they deserve, and they don't have to put up with crap from men, from anybody. It's a full-time job. So it
It
goes back
is.
to what we talk. It is, but it goes back to what we talk about. It comes full circle in what we do on the air and what we say, and things that we tell the women in our audience. We have to walk the talk too. And we uplift women and empower women every day. When we crack open, you can't see my microphone, but when we crack open this microphone, that's part of what we do. We make it a mission to do that. So we have
Yes.
to do that. I have to do that in real life when it comes to, my daughter. So my aha moment for me was motherhood in a
And that's a
big
big
way.
aha. That's a big
Big,
aha. And you're right.
that's
And
a
I
big
think that's one of the reasons why, for me, woman to woman is so important, is because
yes,
I
it is.
think that it's not just reading self-help books. It's not reading about how to make and create a village. It's actually going out and doing it. It's actually saying to another sister when you see her, I'm watching you, and even though you feel by yourself, I see the stuff that you're doing and I'm so proud of you. And I think the world of you. And that's one of the reasons, again, that I decided people might think I'm crazy. People might say, now, why would she want to talk to me? I don't know her. And why is she? I don't care. But I've always had that, I'm not scared of anybody. I'll talk to
You
anybody.
know.
I've always had that attitude, hence me being bad as a kid. But, so my thing was,
Back
I
to
don't
the
care.
childhood.
That's it. So whether
Yeah.
people and the women that I reached out to were receptive of not or not, I felt like that part was none of my business. I'm going to reach out to you because you were on the list that I chose. I thought about you. I see you on social media, or I know you, or I really like you, or I think that you do great. And if nobody else is telling you, I want to tell you. And you were one of those people for me. I was like, I got to talk to Carla. And especially after we were in the elevator together acting a fool, I was like, oh my God, Carla is on my list. I can't wait to talk to her. Because I do see you. I see the stuff that you do. I see the powerful woman that you are, and knowing who you are, and not allowing the room that you're in to determine the value that you have. And I think that's important that we tell that to one another. I also believe that what the nurse was also saying to you through your mama was, stop acting a fool in here.
Yeah, right. Had this baby,
I
girl.
had this baby. Let me have my grandbaby. That's what she was saying. So I
Right.
needed
Like, come on. I was
I
like, I
needed to
can't
say
do
that.
this. I can write a radio show with my eyes closed. I can
Yeah,
edit
but
a
I
break.
can't push this thing out of my vagina.
That's
But
right.
I when I tell
Pick
you,
somebody else.
get somebody else to do it. I knew instantly when we had the chance to spend some time together. I said, this is the kind of girl that I know I could
Yes.
hang out with. We could go
Yes.
kick it. We could get dolled up and go to the White House, and then we can get low with it and get down here and have some fun in the club and tell the DJ, yo, play a better record. This ain't it. Like,
Right.
I knew.
Boom.
Yes. And I love that because I feel like in the roles that we're in, and just in the role of a woman of a certain age, over 30, over 40, whatever that is. I think we lose that sense of spirit and freedom. And
Yeah.
I make it a point to every day to remind people I've not lost mine. I'm still that little girl. I love to have a good time. I love to laugh. And when I laugh from the belly. I laugh
Yeah.
hard and loud. And if you are irritated by that, maybe go down the hall because I'm not going to stop laughing. And I
Right.
really felt like you and I were kindred spirits in that way of we are cut from the same cloth. And so
Yeah.
you are my sister,
You
period. So if you need me
same.
to rumble, rumble, or if we just gonna go roller skate or dance it out, I'm there for you. I got you always and forever, period.
Oh, Jasmine, I received that and right back at you. I think that you are amazing. And when you
Thank
say
you.
you're not afraid of nobody, Jasmine will go get it. She is
Think I won't?
about it. She Yes, and you will go get it. And I think it's so beautiful. It's so amazing. It's so cool that you want to reach out to your fellow sisters and women. Because women, we always hear the negative things about women. We
Yes.
catty, we jealous, we this, we that. But here you are saying, I'm none of those things. And these women that I know, that I work with, that I network with, I want to celebrate them. I want to empower them. I want to hear their story. I want to hear their journey. And I think that right there speaks volume into your character as a so you weren't all the way bad when you were a
There's
little
a
girl.
little room for goodness.
Yeah,
It's a little bit.
you were a sweet is a sweet girl in there who loves people
I
and
do.
who loves to celebrate and cheer and root for people that are winning and let them know I see you. That's who you are. And that we need more people like you in this
Oh,
cold world
thank
to celebrate
you.
and let the kindness and let it flow. And that's the
That's it.
all these little shirts and all these little sayings and
Right.
hashtag be kind, be this. It's not just a saying, it's an action that really, really needs to happen because with your action, Jasmine, you're making the world a better place.
I hope
Just by
so.
celebrating other women, you are making a difference. You don't have to do this. You can sit right on your job and do your show with the king of
Come
comedy,
home and
just like
drink
I
my
do.
little tequila. Yep. And be like, I don't know what y'all doing, but
Right. I got mine, get yours. I holler at you. You don't have to do that, but you do. You know why? Because you're a good person. Because
Mm,
you're a kind person and you are spreading love and kindness and you love what you do and
I
you love
do.
this industry.
I
And we
do.
love you right back. Thank you for
Oh,
being that
thank you, Carla.
that
I
queen.
appreciate it. Let me
No, you're
adjust my little
welcome.
crown a little bit.
Yeah, girl,
Thank
it
you
gets
so
heavy, but
much.
you got it.
And I can't wait for us to hang out again. We gonna party, girl. We gonna
We
party. I
gonna
can't wait.
party.
And
Yes,
thank you
I
so
will
much
let
for
you
taking
know.
the time for me. I know you're busy. I know it is not easy in that gig. I know what you got to do. So kudos to you and thank you for taking the time out. And good luck to your daughter tonight.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. And good luck to you on the air.
Yeah, because I'm on
With
my
that
way right
king of
now.
comedy,
I got to put
girl.
my boots on right now because I'm on my way now. And I know every day, it is we battle it. We love hard, but we fight hard. And then we love
Yeah,
hard again. But that to
right.
me is like, I tell people all the time, it's like going to an amusement park. You're terrified when you're in line for the roller coaster. That's the biggest thing. But you get on it and it's down and up and all that. And you get off and you get right back in line. You be like, you know what?
Girl,
What in
and
the
do it
world am I
again. I'm
doing?
gonna do
Do it
another
again.
ride, right? And that's what we say on the Steve Harvey Morning Show. Welcome to the ride, because it's crazy.
Welcome to the
But
ride.
I feel you. I know you sitting in there like I look at Steve. We ain't doing that. We ain't saying that. We not doing none of that. He like, why? And here comes the arguments. That's
That's it. We argue
it.
all the time,
That's
but I
it.
love it because I know that he loves and respects me, and I'm sure Steve feels the same way about you.
Oh
And
yeah.
what a
20
blessing
years
that
in
is,
this
because
game.
that doesn't always happen in this industry when you have that male and female situation. It don't always work out.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's two of us in there, so
Yeah, oh
whoo
yeah,
child.
and I know Shirley ain't taking no stuff either, so it is,
Ooh,
you know.
no.
And you tell my girl Shirley Strawberry, I love her too, and I'd love to have her on here as well. You know, me and Shirley have never hung out before. I've been in the same room with her before. And you know, she's just like walking grace. She's like, hey, and she
Yeah,
always
she's
put
wonderful.
together. But yeah, I think she's amazing too. So please give her
She
my love
is.
as well.
I will. I will. Thank you,
Okay, and I'll talk to you
Jasmine.
later. Bye, Carla.
Okay, bye. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.